OnePlus 9 Pro review, a refined niche flagship. Fast charging and elegant software offset a so-so cameras. Some people are still having problems. All right, the OnePlus 9 Pro is a legitimate flagship phone that is genuinely competitive with the best Android phones on the market, at least from a features and quality perspective. Yet in terms of market and mind share, it's still destined to be a niche device for a small group of enthusiasts looking for a specific kind of elegance in their Android device. Well, elegance is always good, and that's great. If you live in the US and you're buying an Android phone, chances are very high that you'll end up with a Samsung Galaxy phone. Yes, you will. Samsung has the carrier relationships, quality, and marketing that have led directly to market share. LG, Motorola, and even Google sell more phones here than OnePlus does. But after nearly 7 years and dozens of phones, OnePlus has established itself as a brand that can make great phones that are serious alternatives to the mainstream. The $969 OnePlus Pro achieves that goal with only a handful of notable compromises. OnePlus's flagship phones always come with a laundry list of top-of-the-line specs. But what makes the OnePlus 9 Pro good isn't the numbers, it's how well those specs translate into one of the best experiences you can get using Android. Okay, so a nice positive start. And there's the good stuff and the bad stuff. Good, great screen, elegant software, fast charging. Bad camera can overprocess images, and I've seen that in a number of stories.
Overprocess?
Overprocess. I've seen 3 or 4 stories say that same thing. Digital zoom is weak. I think everybody said that. And no 5G on AT&T. Waiting a Verizon 5G. So basically, the only way you can get 5G on right now is T-Mobile. OnePlus 9 Pro hardware design and 5G support. The hardware design on the OnePlus 9 Pro is the most seamless, elegant phone that the company has designed to date. It is, of course, big. It has a 6.7-inch screen that goes from edge to edge and a body that's narrow enough to make it just barely usable for me in one hand. And I would have to guess it would work for me, too. What I can't help but notice is how far OnePlus has come in build quality. The glass on the front and back curves into the aluminum rail on the edges, with no seams at all. It's well-balanced, beautiful, and solid. It's also the spinning image of a Galaxy S20 Plus. Shift a couple of buttons around, move the selfie camera to the middle, and swap out the logo, and it's the same design. I get that there are only so many ways to sandwich curved glass and aluminum together, but it's uncanny. Yeah, even here, it kind of looks like a Galaxy 20. To be fair, OnePlus does keep some of its identity in the 3-stage ringer switch, which easily lets you toggle between a ringer, vibration, and fully silent, and may still be my favorite feature on the OnePlus phones, and I remain baffled as to why more Android phone makers don't adopt a physical ringer switch. I agree, and I've seen people ask that before, because that's one of the best things about a OnePlus phone.
Instead, they give you the Google Assistant button.
Yeah, which to me is kind of useless. I mean,
which may or may not be programmable.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of vibration, the haptics on the OnePlus 9 Pro aren't sloppy at all, unlike many Android phones. Unfortunately, the trade-off is that they aren't very strong. I often can't feel it vibrate in my pocket. The OnePlus 9 Pro has the top-tier Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 processor, which is paired with 8 gigs of RAM on the 128 gigabyte model. You can't get it in a smaller screen size, but you can spend $100 more to get 256 gig of storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM. There is no micro SD card slot for storage expansion in either model. What you get is what you get. It supports both sub-6 and millimeter wave styles of 5G, but there's a significant caveat. The phone supports it, but OnePlus has only managed to land 5G certification from its carrier partner, T-Mobile. If you buy it unlocked as of now, it will only work with T-Mobile's 5G network. Everything else will be LTE. AT&T 5G support doesn't appear to be in the cards at all, And as for Verizon, OnePlus says that it continues to work with Verizon to certify both the 9 and 9 Pro on its 5G network. Later on, March 26th, Verizon announced that it would support 5G on the OnePlus 9 and 9 Pro. So that was just today, okay. And traditionally, Verizon is usually the slowest one to even put out updates because of getting their certification in their programming. So this is nothing new to me.
You mean like software updates?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Usually, if if
I thought it was AT&T was the laggard.
no, it's usually I don't know if Verizon's slower, but they're usually the last one. If somebody releases a software update, usually it's Verizon is the last one of the major ones to get it in there. You know, some people think it's because of the amount of bloat Verizon has to put on everything. I don't know.
Look at Brian's comment. Verizon wants to put their...
Verizon wants to put their tramp stamp logo on the OnePlus device. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, Brian. You know, Verizon loves doing that stuff. That's absolutely true. You know, and here's another comment from Brian. OnePlus overhype is killing them. I agree 100% because they hyped the crap out of that camera. But I guess we'll get to that.
Sure did.
Yep. For OnePlus, the standout spec is its proprietary charging technology. There's a 65-watt charger included in the box, and it can help charge up the phone ridiculously fast. The phone's 4,500 milliamp battery is actually split in two, which helps further speed charging. If you like, you can spend an additional $69 on a OnePlus new Warp Charge 50 wireless chargers. It charges at 25 watts, but since the battery is split, it's essentially the same as charging at 50 watt wirelessly. It also works if you set the phone on the charger in landscape mode. With the phone fully dead, it charged completely in 45 minutes. That's pretty good. With ambient mode on and Google Assistant on, it took a bit longer, but it was still wicked fast compared to other wireless chargers. Yes, in every review I've seen, all say the charging speed is incredible. The 4,500 milliamp battery was enough to get me through a full day and a half of moderately heavy use. However, OnePlus phones do tend to be a little more variable in their battery life depending on use. Spending a day shooting 4K video and pushing the processor with games meant I could kill it with less than 4 hours of screen time. That's pretty bad. So while the battery life might not be best in class, the way OnePlus has built its ecosystem for charging means that I'm able to top off faster than I can with other phones, provided I use OnePlus's proprietary chargers, of course. OnePlus 9 Pro screen. After wireless charging, the next standout spec on the OnePlus 9 Pro is that 6.7-inch screen. Like Samsung, OnePlus has switched over to an LTPO style of OLED, which can be more power efficient and allows the company to have more control over the refresh rate. Oops, I went too far. The screen can go all the way from 120 hertz on down to 1 hertz, depending on what's happening on the display. OnePlus has branded the touch response rate on the screen as HyperTouch, clocked at 360 hertz for certain games. And though I am dubious it makes that big a difference for gamers, OnePlus says it could. More consequential is the screen resolution, 1440 by 3216 at 525 ppi. That's impressive to me. You can leave it at that high resolution and have the high refresh rate screen going at the same time. Doing so probably hits battery life, but to me, the point of this max spec phone is to max the spec, so I didn't turn down the resolution or the refresh rate. That's exactly what I do. Keep everything up there as high as you can get it. Those are the specs on the screen, but it's the experience that matters. And again, I think OnePlus has done a remarkable job here. Something about the tuning of the animations in Oxygen OS makes this phone feel just a little bit smoother than even Samsung phones. That's pretty impressive. I also appreciate the color tuning. Although it's not as subdued as an iPhone or even a Pixel, it's more restrained than Samsung's default settings. Okay, here to me is the good stuff. OnePlus 9 Pro camera. Without delving into a lot of history, I will just point out that until very recently, camera quality has been the main downfall for OnePlus phones. It's a particularly bad way to fall down, too, because often the clearest and simplest way to compare phones that otherwise look and perform nearly equivalently is to look at the photos they take. OnePlus knows all of this and wants to position the OnePlus 9 as a heads-up competitor, or at least a viable alternative to the very best Samsung and even Apple have to offer. So it did a thing a lot of challenger brands do, call in a ringer. The ringer is Hasselblad, which OnePlus is partnering with to improve its camera results. It will be a multi-year effort, and it's far from guaranteed it'll be a fruitful partnership. In fact, most of these sorts of deals don't really do anything notable when it comes to the camera's quality. This year, Hasselblad's participation with the OnePlus's development process amounted to helping the company tune the colors from the camera and lending a bit of its interface to the camera's promo. Oh, and most importantly for OnePlus, Hasselblad allowed its logo to be stamped next to the lenses. And I've heard that from a number of reviewers that the color tuning is all that's really happening from Hasselblad. I do think there's some credit due to this color tuning influence. In the same way that other smartphone brands have a look to their photos, I think OnePlus is developing its own. iPhone photos are generally flat and neutral, tending to the warm side of color. Pixel photos contrasty and blue, and Samsung photos have the vibrancy slider set to max. That's a pretty nice picture in my opinion. It says OnePlus 9 Pro indoor with mixed lighting handles color well. I think it did it excellent there. Here,
That's all right.
Oh, I think it's really nice. Well, you have a better eye for pictures than I do. OnePlus tends to ramp up blue colors, which is usually fine, but can sometimes get the camera that's seriously ramping up the blue there, I think.
No more so than what
Samsung or Apple.
Well, Samsung used to do it, but I'm thinking more of Pixel, where it airs on the blue side.
Okay, yeah, and that's what he said. And here on the motorcycle, OnePlus does a good job of not adding too much vibrancy when it's not there in the first place. The OnePlus 9 Pro's image output lands mostly in the middle. It tends towards blue, and it definitely lifts up shadows to create more even lighting. Its photos are more striking but less accurate than what you'd get out of an iPhone. The camera system is good, but it can't quite match the quality you get from an iPhone 12 Pro Max or Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, both of which cost more than a OnePlus 9 Pro. It handles a variety of conditions quite well, but sometimes I just had to take an extra beat to compose my shot. It let me better judge what the viewfinder was showing and honestly gave me time to try the shot again. Okay, so you can move it here.
So what was he trying to do?
He's saying sometimes he had to take an extra beat to compose, and sometimes he had to take a second shot.
One is the left. This is the Galaxy S21 Ultra. This is the OnePlus 9 Pro.
Right.
Do that a few more times. Let's see the difference.
Yes, there's the Galaxy S21, and there's the OnePlus 9 Pro. Okay.
Not kind of like in the OnePlus.
Actually, in this picture, so am I. But on the OnePlus, I think the detail could be better, don't you?
I think it's too much detail almost. I think it's like they raised the texture.
Well, yeah, maybe it is too much, but it somehow, the detail doesn't look quite right to me. But
like, look at our eye. Look at the painting's eye. Look at that eye.
Yes, this eye to me looks better overall. This eye seems like it's maybe a little over-processed detail-wise. You agree?
Let me just take a deeper look at it. Pretend I'm big. I don't know. Like, maybe because I thought at first that was the texture of the wall.
Right, but it's not.
Is that not the case?
Oh, well, it is some. You're right. Yeah, but why did Samsung handle it so much better, texture of the wall-wise, I mean?
I think Samsung just smoothed it.
I don't know. So, I mean, look right here. I can't get
look at where the bird is. Like, I would think that's how it actually was in real life.
Okay, I'm looking. I'm looking at where those red and yellow flowers are right next to the eye. That's what I don't think looks very good at all. Here they look better, but yeah, they're not as sharp here. So I guess it's generally okay.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if it's over sharpening or that's just how the wall was.
I'm thinking it's over sharpening, but I'm not sure. But
Okay.
I guess we have to say either way, the eyes have it. Oh, I couldn't resist that. You know me. Let me see what Brian is saying over here. Enjoy that Note 20 Ultra, that last sync device with SD card and MST. Okay. And Brian, I think that statement is somewhat off. iPhones have bumped up their saturation over the years also, along with their warmth. I agree, because on my iPhone 12 Pro, I have noticed that the saturation seems to be much more than, let's say, it was when I had the iPhone 10. Okay.
Yeah, slowly but surely. And on the portrait mode, iPhones have also started skin smoothing as well.
Okay, which I don't know why they do that. Everybody hates that, so I don't get the point. Okay, as usual with smartphone cameras, I think the difference comes down to software. I like the colors the 9 Pro produces, but sometimes it just tries too hard and whiffs. And I've heard others kind of say the same thing. Similarly, OnePlus seems to want to bring a little of that pixel contrast magic to bear, but instead just over-sharpened. So we were right, it is over-sharpened. And enlightening shadows is sometimes laudable, but not when it adds completely unnecessary and distracting image noise. I guess I'd have to agree. The main camera uses a new 48 megapixel Sony sensor with OIS. Then when I pressed OnePlus to tell me what exactly the sensor brings to the table, I didn't really get a clear answer. You can shoot 12-bit RAW images on the Pro mode, which is 2 bits more than last year, if you're keeping count. Now these pictures, this one looks pretty good to me, I think even detail-wise. But he's saying the camera can try too hard to brighten shadows. Okay, so it's brightening up the shadow. So over here, he was saying that cost you detail. I think that picture looks pretty good. What do you think?
Like in that top photo, normally phones these days, when they all try to tout their HDR mode,
right?
Usually the phone, without even asking you, would just go straight into HDR and just give you an HDR shot. Like if there's too much, if the camera thinks there's too much shadows.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's kind of interesting though that the OnePlus camera doesn't give him, and it does go into HDR mode. So I'm not sure if he put the camera on manual mode or
I don't know.
He didn't enable HDR mode.
Yeah, he doesn't tell us. Yeah,
because he does talk about controlling the exposure from the shadows and whatnot. So I don't know why he doesn't just underexpose the photo a little bit. It's in his discretion.
Right. Now looking at the bottom picture, the camera over-sharpens sometimes too. Take a look at the fringing around the runners on the lake in this ultra-wide shots. So there's the runners. Are you seeing the fringing around them?
No, fringing looks like purple. It'll come up like a purple outline on something. So that's what the fringing is. It would normally be like where the sun is, like right there at the top right corner. Okay,
gotcha. Okay. Now, so what do you think of this photo? When I saw this photo, I didn't think much of it. What do you think?
I can definitely see where it definitely is over sharpened, especially with the bushes and the detail in the background.
Right. Okay.
That, especially along the horizon, that does look a bit over sharpened.
Okay.
But in terms of dynamic range, though, I have to say, for an ultra wide shot, it held the contrast pretty well. Like it didn't fade out, considering he's shooting into the sun.
Okay, but see the buildings back here?
Yep.
I don't think they look so hot in this picture. I'm thinking they should look better or clearer at least.
Clearer? They're so far back. How clear can you get them?
I don't know. I don't know. That was the first thing I noticed. That was the first thing I thought didn't look right to me. But of course, I have 76-year-old eyes, so who knows what I'm seeing. Okay. That's all nice, but the face on Pro mode is what gets me. You can clearly see what's set to manual and what's in auto mode. It's simple and easy to use too. Best of all is focus peaking, which draws little lines over the part of the image that's in focus. It's a lot clearer and more fun to use than the tap to focus you need to use on other phones. You can do that here too, of course. The OnePlus 9's Pro's other cameras include a big 50 megapixel ultra wide with a sensor that's quite a lot nicer than the usual step down sensors ultra wides get stuck with. I loved using it right up until it went haywire with sharpening. OnePlus put in a custom lens to help with distortion at the edges, and it works well or better than pure software fixes at keeping straight lines from bowing. What he said.
Yeah, I heard from Juan that the ultra-wide sensor of the OnePlus is actually bigger than the main sensor of the iPhone.
Right, and everybody I've seen talk about it all think the ultra-wide is the best.
Ultra-wide in the history of ultra-wides?
No, I mean the best, better looking than the normal camera. That's what I've been seeing. The telephoto camera is 3x3x, and it's not anything special at that zoom level. Beyond it, digital zoom is kind of a mess. It gets enhanced by the S21 Ultra with its periscope-style lens. There's also a monochrome camera that serves only as a helper for the rest of the system.
So it's not a camera, it's a sensor. Monochrome sensor.
Yeah, and everybody seems to universally dislike that monochrome. OnePlus did drop the gimmicky and pointless color filter camera from last year's 8 Pro this time around. It will probably drop the monochrome camera next year if I had to guess.
Apparently the monochrome sensor is not to take photos, but apparently it's just to help the video camera.
Yeah. It's a sensor to help out.
Yeah.
But nobody seems to think highly of it.
It's a monochrome sensor. I like the monochrome sensors that Leica had, that Huawei had. Those were beautiful.
Okay. See, I haven't had a Huawei since the Mate 9, so, and that was a mid-range camera, mid-range phone, so I can't talk about Huawei.
The Mate is the flagship series of Huawei.
Yeah, but keep in mind, this was way back what is that phone now? 4 years old? 3 years old? Yeah.
But why could Huawei puts the monochrome sensor? They put the monochrome sensor in the P series, so it wouldn't have gone in the Mate.
Right, and the P series wasn't out when I got that.
Yeah, that was the photographer one.
Yeah,
that's what P stood for, photography.
But yeah, ever since they came up with the P series, people rave about their cameras even being better than Apple's or Pixel's. So
they are good cameras.
Yeah, I just wish I would get one if they had Google, but no. Nigel got Google on his, but Nigel goes through a lot of rigmarole to get on it. Hey, Cobra's in here. Nice to see you, Cobra. And he ought to know. Mate series has great cameras. He certainly knows, that's for sure. Don is watching on the G8X. Okay, guess who he bought that? Guess who he bought that from?
Oh, from you.
Yes, because I have the Velvet behind me, so I didn't need both. Glad to see you here, Don.
G8X Unite. Hold on, I might somehow replace this.
Yeah, now you Texas guys can unite with your G8Xs. And you are in Dallas, and Don is only in Frisco, so he's pretty close to you.
Gotta hang out.
Exactly.
G8X users need to stick together.
Okay.
Let me know when you get an update on your phone, by the way, Don. I'm waiting on that.
Okay. OnePlus's software-focused Nightscape mode works really well for capturing nighttime shots, although to my taste, it over-brightens the image. Well, a lot of them do that. Portrait mode is a mixed bag. Heads often look artificially cut off in the blurry background. Again, I can get good shots, but portrait mode was often one of those situations where I needed to try the shot a second time. The selfie camera is passable in good light, but falls down fast in the dark. Yeah, a couple of people have complained about that selfie camera. Unfortunately, video is equally messy. The OnePlus 9 Pro will let you shoot up to 8K 30 or 4K 120, but neither look good. In fact, regular old 4K 30 has that over-processed and over-sharpened look you see so often from smartphones. The big new feature is improved HDR, like you said, for backlit subjects, but the effect is minimal at best. That's a whole pile of critical taste compared to phones that cost more than this phone. But despite the price difference, I think the OnePlus 9's Pro camera should be held to as high a standard as possible. I agree. It's a flagship phone. It can sometimes hang with the best, and that's a win. Yeah, but see, what that says to me, that means sometimes it can't hang with the best, and that's a loss to me.
I don't know what the best is supposed to be in this situation, though.
I think the best, oh, of course, for me, the best is these two, because I think the 21 Ultra and the iPhone have the best cameras, and along with the Pixel. But I don't think this, from everything I'm seeing and reading about the OnePlus 9 Pro, I don't think it can touch any of the three of those. That's just my opinion. Even though the camera is often the main differentiator from an Android phone, it's not necessarily everybody's highest priority. When I'm not pixel peeping photos, the OnePlus 9 Pro is the best Android phone I've used so far this year. Wow. Better than the Ultra? Wow. The performance is great. I'm especially impressed with the optical in-screen fingerprint sensor, which is super fast and doesn't seem to be thrown by weird lighting conditions. Yeah, the Ultra still has a few problems with that. OnePlus's version of Android is called Oxygen OS, and now it's at version 11. The company has borrowed Samsung's idea of shifting content down to meet your thumb and added in support for an always-on ambient display. I love ambient displays, always on. The animations feel smooth, and OnePlus has learned its lesson about how annoying it can be to have apps close in the background too often. I agree. OnePlus has committed to 2 major OS updates and 3 years of bi-monthly security updates, which puts it ahead of brands like LG, but behind Samsung and Google. You can customize a few things like the font and icons too. My favorite customization is an ambient display mode that displays a colorful bar that shows how often you've been using your phone throughout the day. It sounds interesting and useful. One feature borrowed from Apple and or Microsoft is the ability to put your widgets into a separate panel so they're not littering your main home screen. You probably got that from Apple. Accessible via a quick swipe down. I love it, but I wish it wasn't mapped to the same thing other Android phones use to quickly bring down notifications. Mostly, though, Oxygen OS just feels chill, especially compared to Samsung. OnePlus isn't pushing its own ecosystem of apps and services, though with a OnePlus Watch coming, perhaps that may change. It's also not festooning its own apps with advertisements, unlike Samsung. So that's basically it. So I wanted to get that one out of the way first. Let's see what Brian is. Let me get this off the screen. What's Brian saying over here? Well, see, I think Mr. Mobile mentioned that the OnePlus portrait mode messes up glasses consistently. Well, that's not good. Days 1. OnePlus should stop focusing on Samsung-like features camera and aim for Google quality picture. That's probably true. And Brian says the problem is the Pixel A series have eviscerated OnePlus on camera and updates. Yeah, I'm looking to get a.
I heard OnePlus is doing well on updates, though. Well, on the flagship OnePlus phones.
Right. Yeah. And I expected they would. Here's Days 1. With the SD888 getting 4 years of support, OnePlus should have also gone 3 years on OS updates. I agree with that.